Hey everybody, it's Dennis here from Unity in the Heart. I just want to let you know we had a few technical problems with our streaming service today. We got some notification from the tech folks over there that everybody who is using it was not having success. So unfortunately, our service did not get live streamed today. However, we were able to record and restore most of it, starting with Reverend Ray's talk on living on the horizontal. So although you've missed the first few minutes of the service and our first guest song, we're going to drop you right in, right at the beginning of Reverend Ray's talk, Living on the Horizontal.
To live in peace while still acknowledging and living in the world. Really living our third principle, which is we create the reality we live in by the power of our thoughts and our mind. And you know, sometimes that's more difficult than others. So it's been a tough week. I'm not going to claim it for everyone, but it's been a tough week for many. And you know what? Robin and I were talking, and she had a dream. And she had an issue with someone years ago, and she had forgiven them. And in her dream, the person annoyed her, and she punched him in the nose. And she said, I realized that I could forgive somebody and still hold a boundary and punch the person in the nose when they cross that boundary. So we can be angry. We can be sad. We don't have to metaphysically malpractice ourselves and deny what is a reality in our heart. We can actually even be in joy. We can be happy. I wouldn't admit it in certain circles, but no, I'm just kidding there. But we can have our emotions and we can still live a life of peace. On Wednesday morning, I read a lot of different spiritual stuff because I'm in a chaplain in a Benedictine center, which is Catholic. I get stuff from the Lutherans. I get stuff from Unity. I get stuff from Course in Miracles. Every piece of literature I read Wednesday morning, some of this is the lectionary, which is set years ago. Some of it is from Course in Miracles, which was set decades ago. Some of it is ancient writings. Each one said the same thing. Life can be difficult. Life can be hard. And we can still have faith and trust in God that all things will unfold eventually for our good. That we, as I said, we create the reality we live in through the power of our thoughts. Now, there was a prophet I read that I thought said it most brilliantly. Jon Stewart from The Daily Show. This is not the end. He was really clear. He also used some colorful language that I won't use. Our job is not to go, woe is me, this is the end. He said instead it's to imagine and work towards the world you would like to live in and you would like to see. Our job is not to live in despair and I'm going to take the inventory of the hippies back in Nixon's administration when McGovern lost, and we all went, woe is us, the heck with it. We all became insurance salesmen. We all became stockbrokers, and as the Eagle said, I had my deadhead sticker on my Cadillac. It's not to give up. It's to say this isn't the end. We get to continue to do our work. As the Apostle Paul then says, and that work is so then as to have an opportunity to let us work for the good towards all men. Now, Alfred Adler, who is a psychologist and one of the three giants, he was a contemporary of Jung and Freud. And they created the foundation of modern psychology. He described the society we lived in his time, which was the end of the 19th century, where everything and everyone was constantly in competition and exploitation, and he called it living on the vertical. So has everybody been on a ladder at some point in their life? Anybody not been on a ladder? Well, I used this at Benedictine the other day, and I forgot a couple of the people were born in, that had to be in a wheelchair all their life. And they go, I've never been on a ladder. Okay, bad metaphor. So everybody's been on a ladder. A ladder's thin. If you're in front of me on the ladder and I want to get to the rung above me, I have to crawl over you. Or I have to pull you down to get there. And if somebody's behind me and they want to get where I am, they have to crawl over me or pull me down. And now we're in competition for that one rung. That's living on the vertical. Life is a win-lose. It's a zero-sum game. There's only so much, and if you have more, then I must have less. It is the consciousness of scarcity in which we're all in competition for a finite amount of goods and money, so we all try to clamor to get the most we can. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and it doesn't work. It ends up getting us in a place where we're destroying our own planet because we're all just trying to get the most we can. And in reality, the reality of it is the person with the most toys doesn't get the win at the end. But it doesn't have to be that way. The nuns of Saint Benedict, wow, man, sometimes I got to slow down because I start. The nuns of Saint Benedict ask us to consider a world where the peace of Christ, with his prophetic honesty, reckless compassion, and nonviolent resistance rules the country. Where equality, equity, reverence, respect for personal differences, building community, and listening to the inner voice of God is paramount. Anybody not want to live in that world? I want to live in that world. That's a way of living that has been taught for millennium. Jesus taught. This is the essence of Jesus' teachings. 2,000 years ago, think the Sermon on the Mount. And it's such a radical shift in our thinking. There was a preacher a few months ago who preached the Sermon on the Mount on a Sunday morning, and they were threatening to fire him for daring to teach that socialist, communist garbage in their congregation. They didn't even know that this is the very basis, the essence of who Jesus was asking us to be. In 1 Peter, Paul said, no, actually 1 Peter would be Peter, wouldn't it be? So, finally, all of you have unity of spirit, sympathy, love for one another, a tender heart, and a humble mind. This is the essence of the teachings that we're supposed to follow. As Thich Nhat Hanh said, I really like your Jesus. It's your Christians that I have a lot of trouble with. Daily, and this is the teachings of unity to our core. 1957 Daily Word. While we may not be in agreement with every person with whom we live and work, we can get along harmoniously with anyone. We can give loving cooperation. No one said we have to agree with everybody. Oneness does not mean sameness. Oneness does not mean giving up your own authenticity, but it doesn't mean you have to be disrespectful or dissension. The Mennonites have a good one. Agreeing and disagreeing in love. How can you disagree with somebody and still treat them as a human? And yet, even though Jesus taught it, within a generation, we had completely forgotten it. We still fail to grasp a way of living that allows us to transcend what in essence is the illusion of separation and differences. The separation that we see is a mere illusion. And here's the bad news. What Adler said is, as an individual, there's very little you can do about it. The world's going to live on the vertical. Jesus is probably about as good as example, and it didn't work for him to change everybody. But there are people who claimed it and live it. The world is the way it is, but it doesn't have to be for us. You may not be able to change the consciousness of the United States or Hennepin County or Blaine where I live, but you can do the one thing that you have the power to do, which is change yourself. Live differently. What we can do is we can shift our intention and learn to live a life of peace in the midst of what in reality is flipping insanity out there some days. It's just crazy some days. You just wonder just drive in a rush hour traffic sometime and just ask, you don't have to do the big meta. Ask yourself, what in the world is that person thinking? It's raining and they're cutting across 3 lanes of traffic like they're in a demolition derby, because that's about what they cause. And I'm going to go off script here. Most of this has to do with changing our mind about how we think. Where we put our attention is where we create drama, where we create our reality. The world didn't actually really change on Tuesday. You realize, of course, that there was an election. Nothing really happened other than the election. No bills were passed. Nobody was nominated. And you would have thought your Chicken Little and the sky was falling. Nothing actually happened. We can point our attention to the beauty, the grace, the miracles of everything and still live a life of peace. I was reading this little poem where they said, the sky is falling, and the chicken didn't know what to do, so he went outside, laid on his back, and put his hands and little feet up in the air. And they said, what are you doing? I'm holding up my piece of the sky. And then there was this whole thing about that it only takes a small amount of people to shift the consciousness of the world. A paradigm shift typically is expected to be shifted at about somewhere between, depending on how big a shift it is, somewhere between 10% to maybe up to 25%. But it doesn't take a majority. It doesn't take everyone. So we can just lay and hold up our piece of the sky. Adler described vertical relationships as hierarchical, boss-employee, power differentials. And he said self-elevation can never bring lasting peace or satisfaction. I'm going to get to the next place. In recovery, we say if you hear I too many times, you're in the wrong mindset, that you're thinking only about you. Living vertical creates, among other things, stress, anxiety, dissension, and quite frequently conflict. And he described a way of living that can deal with that stress and allow us to live differently. And he called this, Robin, what? Living on the horizontal. Adler's concept of living on the horizontal refers to moving through life in an egalitarian way, treating others as equals, and contributing to the welfare of others. To really seeing our shared humanity, rather than focusing on the distinctions of differences, which are usually minute and minor. To remember the shared humanity and the bridges of distinction that bring us together. As Paul said in Galatians, to bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. Or the daily word, through cooperation, we enlarge our field of action. When we cooperate with others, we in some measure extend our own activities into the fields of endeavor that others occupy, and that we share contact with all life. Cooperation is the unifying element, rather than competition. And that was from 1927. Of course, Adler believed that life should be lived as best as possible on the horizontal, treating others as equal, treating others with fairness, treating others with respect. Again, as from Paul, this is woven all through the New Testament. To be kind to one another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another as God forgave you. Our desire to be useful in interactions can never, ever go unmerited and frustrated. Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, said that when man awakens even a slight consciousness of the cooperative spirit, he becomes the co-creator with God. God doesn't live in competition, pitting people against each other. God lives in and through us. Living on the horizontal aligns us with the teachings not only of Christianity and Christ, but also with the unity teachings, as we are all divine expressions of God. We're all called to live, breathe, and have our being on this beautiful planet. And we're all created in the image and likeness of God. Not some, all. We're all created in the image and likeness of God, and we're called to be creative with each other. Not in competition where some win and some lose and some are left behind, but in a spirit of cooperation and unity, and actually living into our prosperity consciousness, which says there is enough for all. I'm drawing on a lot of sources because they say it better than I could. Charles again said, "We do not abandon our friends and withdraw all interest from them, but we recognize their equality within ourselves in the Supreme Mind, and by that recognition they are freed from a mental dependency in which we have unconsciously bound them. When we see somebody as less than, we hold them as less than, we talk to them as less than, we make legislation as if they are less than, and we see them as less than human." When Robin worked for the Bridge, and I think I've told this one before, which was started for runaway youth so they wouldn't be in the system. She would work with them, and they would start owning and claiming their own divinity. They would start owning their own personhood. They would start owning the fact that they weren't damaged, broken, or somehow less than. And then she would send them back to their families, and the families could only see the damage. And within a few weeks, they'd be back at the Bridge, starting over, because how we see people is generally how they become. We don't abandon our friends, but see and experience them from a higher perspective. We have a choice. We can live life in equality, equanimity. We can live it in fairness and peace and see each other not as my brother, but as myself. To see each other as the shared human that we all are. And live a life that raises up everyone, not a few, and in which we all get to live in peace and harmony, and in a world that everyone can thrive, or as I still like, a world that works for everyone. Or we have a choice. We can go back to the struggle and competition and scarcity. Dog eat dog. I don't know why we always pick on dogs, but dog eat dog. A world where I have mine, and now I have to make sure I get to keep it safe from you, so that you don't take any of mine away, because then I will have less, and I will no longer be at peace. A world that lives in fear and scarcity. We have a choice. Let's go ahead and turn to a time of meditation.
I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this world as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this day as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this day as it is, go inside to find my God.
So now as we move into this time of meditation and prayer, I invite you to become comfortable in your seat. Set aside anything in your hands or on your lap or on your mind that may be a barrier to this communion with the divine. And as we go within to that place of oneness, to that place where we know that we live and move and have our being as the one creator, I invite you to use your power of imagination. Bring to mind those people, those places, those furry babies that bring you such joy, those places in nature, all of those wonderful blessings in your life that bring you joy. And as you bring them to mind, allow your heart to open and allow all of the love within you to envelop all of those people, all of those fur babies, all of those places, all of nature. Allow them to be enveloped in all of the love that you possess. And then bring to mind your neighbors, your extended family, those places that you go to that may not be the ones that you would choose to spend most of your time. Those things that may not be at the top of your list of your favorite, but still things that bring you comfort and joy. And again, open your heart and let your love envelop and enfold those people, places, things as well. Knowing that as you give love, you receive love. And the more love that you give, the more love you have. And now using that immense power of imagination that we were all gifted by the divine, bring to mind those people, those places, those situations that bring you angst or fear, those things that maybe you prefer not to look at about yourself or other people. Those things that are different or seem to be less than, those things that you would be different, that you would change, that you would not want to have the way they are. And once again, open your heart and surround all of that with all of the love in your heart. Surrounding it with light, with love. Knowing that as you surround even that with all of the love that you possess, You have the opportunity in that loving spirit to accept and to change that which you see, that which you experience, knowing that as you love and give love to even that, you get love in return. And by loving all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, by loving all of it, we have the opportunity to change our world, our experiences, and our ability to see things differently. And so we take this experience, this possibility, into the silence, and we rest, opening our hearts and loving everything. So as we begin now to return to this time and this place, we return with the renewed commitment to bring our love to every person, to every situation, to every part of everything we see, to every part of our planet, knowing that our love by itself and combined with the love of everyone else can truly transform not only our own experience, but the experience of our planet. And we can bring peace. We can bring love. We can change the world. And truly, that is our purpose here, to change the world. And so we say, Amen.
I will leave this life as it is, go inside to find my God. I will leave this life as it is, go inside to find my God. Go inside to find my God. Go inside to find my God.
Thank you, Ray and Robin, for your words to uplift and inspire and challenge us. Now is the time when we acknowledge that all we have comes to us from God, our source. With our gifts, we express our openness to give and receive and our gratitude for God's generous supply.
My gift goes forth on the wings of love, and it lands where it can heal and bless. It returns to me, multiplied 1,000-fold, as the universe says yes, yes, as the universe says yes.
Let's join together in our affirmation for gifts, which is printed in your bulletin. Together, divine love and wisdom flowing through me, bless and multiply all that I give, all that I receive, and all that I am. Let's join together in the blessing of our gifts. With grateful hearts, we bless our gifts and say, "Thank you, God, for the abundant blessings we enjoy." We release our gifts as they go out into the world, expressing God's unlimited love, abundance, and supply. For those who wish to contribute electronically, if you are watching live, on the screen in front of you, you will see a QR code in the upper left corner of the video. Scan it to donate during the service. Or after the service, you will find a donate button on our website. Also, you may mail your contribution to Unity in the Heart, 1898 Eigelhart Avenue, St. Paul, Minnesota, 55104. And now it is time for our second song from Rich Miller.
Thank you, Mary. Well, a few years ago, I did not have Reverend Ray's talk today to inform and inspire me, nor Robin's wonderful meditation. So I turned to Spirit and I asked, how do I deal with this vertical horizontal, although I didn't have those words? And how do why am I even alive? And this is what I got. It's good to let go of the ties that bind us. Practice the ways of love and kindness. Cherish those who do remind us the reason we're alive is to learn to love. The reason we are here is to love. That's right. It's easy to get caught up in day-to-day distractions we encounter along the way. What keeping a balance between work and play, figuring out what we really need to reach all the goals we seek. We need to let go of the ties that bind us, practice the ways of love and kindness, cherish those who do remind us the reason we're alive is to learn to love. The reason we are here is to love. Now the news are filled with stories from far and near, and it's good to be informed, but it's also clear you can't believe everything you read and hear. Every opinion is a point of view, so what will you choose to do? It's good to let go of the ties that bind us, practice the ways of love and kindness, cherish those who do remind us the reason we're alive is to learn to love. The reason we are here is to love. Isn't this the riddle that we've all been seeking answers to since we first learned to say the word why? Once we understand more of the reason for this lifetime, we can find new ways to help us make a change in our lives. And we can let go of the ties that bind us, practice the ways of love and kindness, cherish those who do remind us the reason we're alive is to learn to love. The reason we are here is to love. Now isn't this the riddle that we've all been seeking answers to since we first learned to say the word why? Once we understand more of the reason for this lifetime, we can find new ways to help us make a change in our lives, so we can let go of the ties that bind us, practice the ways of love and kindness, cherish those who do remind us the reason we're alive is to learn to love. The reason we are here is to love. The reason we're alive is to learn to love. The reason we are here is to love. We are here to love. Thank
you. Amen to that, brother. All right, so I got nothing. So let's all stand and we'll run a little bit late anyhow. We'll do our peace song followed by our prayer for protection.
Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that was meant to be. With God as our creator, family all are we. Let us walk with each other in perfect harmony. Let peace begin with me. Let this be the moment now. With every step I take, let this be my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me.
The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. And the presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. God bless. Have a safe week.